Radio Sports, the sports authority.
Live in the studio.
It's time for the Red Hawks Coaches Show. Live from Wings, etc. Hear the Coaches Show each week on SEMO ESPN 1220 and also at SEMOESPN.com and the SEMO ESPN app. Also, watch the Red Hawks Coaches Show webcast live at SEMOESPN.com. Now, let's go live to Wings, etc. for the Red Hawks Coaches Show.
Welcome in another edition of the Red Hawks Coaches Show. We are at Wings, etc., Cape Girardeau location for a second straight week. This programming note, next week we will be back over in the Jackson location. So make plans to join us. And if you have not made lunch plans, stop on by. We would love to have you join us here because on Mondays, they have their award-winning jumbo wings for just 69 cents. So make sure you take advantage of that. Or if you want to expand your horizons past their award-winning wings, they've got a full menu featuring freshly made burgers. They have wraps, subs, quesadillas, entree salads, smoked ribs, and much more. And check out their daily half-pound lunch special starting at just $7.99. It is Wings, etc. in Cape Girardeau. We're going to be talking it over with Coach Tom Matukowicz and punter Jake Reynolds going to join us a little bit later on in the show. Let's welcome in Coach Took, whose team was victorious in a big way on Saturday, 56-10. Coach, welcome in. How was your weekend after the end of the football game?
It was good. You know, I appreciated the early kickoff. So I actually got a night off, took the bride downtown, had a little bite to eat, enjoyed my evening.
All right. And everybody's probably in a much better mood talking to you after wins, right?
Probably. You know, I don't know. When I come, they have made ducks as it is. So, but, you know, at the end of the day, it was just a fun weekend. You know, as I drove around, there's just a lot of people in town. You know, they had some stuff downtown with family weekend and everything. It was just a nice weekend for Southeast.
Boy, I can remember when I first started doing SEMO football, I was a sideline reporter, and this was like 97, 98, 99. Back then, you know, they had went Division I in 91. There was no tailgating at all. None of those tents. There was no tailgating. We, as a radio station, would sit in Houck Fieldhouse's parking lot, and we had Bi-State deliver a few hot dogs, and Colfeld and River Eagle would give us some beverages, and that was it. And we'd get maybe 30 people would show up. We're broadcasting live, trying to get a tailgate going. And now look at what it is. I mean, it's all the way down the block, you know, at the end of the block. I mean, it's a real tailgate college football atmosphere here at Cape.
It really is.
Totally different than it used to be.
Yeah, I tell you, Cape loves a tailgate. I mean, if you want to have somebody show up to your event, just have a tailgate. They'll be there. What an amazing weekend for Southeast Athletics, though. Of course, I'm involved in football, so I don't see a lot of that. But I don't know if you saw where volleyball had a great weekend. I believe soccer's 2-0 in the OVC.
They are. For the first time in 8 years, they're 2-0 in the OVC.
Yeah. And so just a great start. You know, Brady Barkey and administration has done a good job, and all the coaches have done a good job. And it's just fun to be a part of a winning athletic program, because I know how hard it is, and I know we got a lot of really, really great coaches on staff, but it's hard, you know, and so hats off to those guys.
And it all started earlier last week when the volleyball team went to St. Louis University, who had only lost one match on its home floor, and they beat SLU. They go to Memphis and get involved in the Beale Street Challenge. They go 3-0, and the final team they beat, Memphis, was undefeated, I believe.
Oh, really?
11-0 prior to SEMO beating them. So that was pretty good. And you mentioned soccer and the football game. Boy, you came out and got off to a fairly quick start. 14-0 lead after one quarter. What were your thoughts early on in the game? You get a 18-yard run by Daniel Santa Catarina, and then the big 50-yard bomb to Aaron Alston. That was a fun play.
Yeah, I think going into the game, one of the biggest keys that I wanted to see is I wanted to be the most physical team. Something I felt like we struggled the last couple games, and after watching the film, I think we did a great job with that. It didn't start great. They faked a punt, got a first down, but we always talk about sudden change, and you got to get your mind right. You thought was going to happen, it didn't happen, and you got to go out there. We call hold the line, and we held them to a field goal. They missed the field goal, then we go down and score. Well, that could have been 7 the other way. That could be a 14-point swing there, and so that was a great job by our defense, and then just a big play from our offense was great to see. And how physical of a run that is. I don't know if you remember, but Santa lowers his shoulder and a helmet pops off, and I thought it was his. I was like, oh, my God, we're going to lose the guy on a scramble. But he knocked one of their DBs, his helmet off, so that was awesome.
There were several helmets that popped off in that football game.
Yeah. I think what happens is, especially with the humidity and stuff like that, their helmets aren't as tight and there's not as much air in there. And then once you start sweating and all that thing gets pretty loose. But
what have you seen as far as helmet technology? Because, we just went through this whole thing with Antonio Brown in the NFL, and he wanted to use an old helmet. They said, no, safety reasons, you got to use a new helmet. So what have you seen with helmets, and how's it going right now with Division I football?
Well, there's no concussion-proof helmet, but the technology is good as it's ever been. But if you really want to know what's changed the game is how we're coaching it. I mean, we are coaching and we are legislating taking the head out of the game, like it's not in the game. All of our tackling drills are without the head. The NFL's done a great job on down, even through youth sports. And so really football is one of the safer sports there is. I mean, there's more concussions in women's soccer than in college football. And so I think just the way we're coaching the game has really advanced that just, you don't want to lose it to somebody. It's a violent enough sport, but just taking the head out's been a good thing for the kids. I mean, it's the way it should be.
And it's something else. That's one of the messages probably that needs to be put out there by football people, because some of the national numbers that you're starting to see, less young people are playing football now, and I think part of that is mom and dad and maybe fear of long-term issues.
Yeah. I mean, and I think people start, it's this underlying thing that the game's not safe. It's safe. It's safe as it's ever been. If you study the numbers, it's not even close. But also, we need to adapt and adjust as coaches and the people that love the game. Like, sometimes we get defensive and, we're trying to make the game soft, and so that's that ego talking about how when I played, that's not how it should be. If there's a way to not change the game but make it safer, why would we not try to do that? And so as a big organization, I really feel like we've done that on a big scale, and it'll come back around. But it's a concern, even here in Cape Youth, I think it's the Cape Tackle Youth League, or I forget what it is, but the numbers are down, and we got to address it. And we just got to make sure it's not because of false media out there. Make sure that this is a great game. It provides you so much in life, and it's a plus. What other sport can have that many people engaged?
Yeah.
I mean, all these other sports, you got 10 people, 100 of them try out. Football, you can earn a spot doing something, right? And so that's why we got to continue to take care of our game and make sure people are involved in it, because it is hugely beneficial.
What was the challenge on Saturday? Because that is the hottest game that you've been involved with in terms of the temperature. It seemed like it might have been a little uncomfortable on the sideline.
Yeah, I didn't care because we Tuesday and Wednesday was hotter. We're out there in the hottest part of the day, and so
you'd
glad.
Really prepped for it.
Yeah, we had great preparation for the heat, and I think it affected them more than us. Our tempo seemed to work on both those scoring drives in the first quarter. They seemed to gas. So I think it actually was a benefit to us, the heat was. But I'll tell you what, I'm ready for fall. Are you? What are we doing? Missouri's crazy. It's like
I thought we're
the
past
state
the
of
90s.
Missouri needs like some medication. Like we're one day it's this, one day it's that. It can't ever make its mind up.
So we see the game differently from the press box than you do down on the sideline, but it looked like, especially in the fourth quarter, you had just flat worn them down.
Yeah.
Did you feel the same way?
Yep. And that was the plan and the physicality and the over and over and over and over and over and imposing your will, and it got to where felt like we could about do anything. And so that's what you want to get. You want to get stronger as the game goes on. Obviously, you don't want to get weaker. And I thought that felt like that.
The opening drive for them, you mentioned the fake punt. And then at one stretch, it looked like they had thrown a touchdown pass because actually there was an official that said touchdown. He was overruled by the back judge. We saw the replay clearly. He didn't complete. He complete the catch. The ball popped out. But at one stretch, it did look like they had scored points. So the start of that football game could have been completely different.
Yeah, I mean, there was some good adversity there. And I think we can get into this later probably, but after the 4-game non-conference, what is it we got to get better? And special teams, the number one thing. It's really not our specialist. It's just we've had a lot of injuries, which not necessarily injuries to offense and defense, but a lot of other guys that have affected our too deep, and we haven't had consistency there, and we've given up several big plays on special teams, and we're always the team that normally make those big plays, and so we got to get back to making those.
By the way, Jeff Hansa lets us know the Red Hawks are number 26 in the FCS coaches poll. Actually dropped from 25 to 26, and the same spot in the Stats Media poll, number 23. So still top 25. I know, that sounded, the fans like to hear that, but that is the updated situation. Their quarterback ends up getting hurt, and it certainly did not look like a dirty play. We saw the replay. He was in bounds when he got shoved out of bounds. I mean, that's a legal play. I think he ran into someone on the sideline, but it appeared to be a knee injury, and there appeared to be a drop-off for them at quarterback. That guy looked like Austin Hensley. I mean, he really looked poised. He looked like a senior out there. But it was a different challenge for them as they rotated in a couple of different quarterbacks.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I was going to get into later. But Jerron Williams, who's our D-line coach, he's new to the staff. But he's 2-0. He took out the quarterback and he took out the official.
I didn't see the official go down.
Yeah, so the quarterback comes to him and he just catches him. And the guy stopped and his knee buckled. And then we end up getting a stop, and the official keeps going and runs into Jerron on the sideline and gets a flag. I don't know if you remember that.
It was just a sideline warning. Did they actually?
No, it was 15-yarder.
They stepped it off.
And,
okay.
Broke his ankle.
Really?
The sideline guy.
Wow.
Broke his ankle. So it was kind of a rough day. Jerron was more physical than the D-line. Needed to get him going.
So you said before the game, well, you said it on this show, you said it during our pregame interview on game day, that you were really, really upset about the lack of physicality, and you said you really, really preached it during the week. Were you satisfied?
Yeah, absolutely. I saw it from the beginning to the end. I saw it in all kinds of different positions. We could be better. It's just like any skill set. The more you do it, the better you get at it. The more physical you play, the better you get at it. And so we just got to continue that. But it showed up. I mean, we wore them down at the end of the game. And so I think that just that constant physicality that they knew they had to show up every single play, I think that ended up being a great edge for us.
It's the first time that you have played a non-Division I school since 2015. It's been a while. How much talk is there every year about, okay, are we going to play a non-D1 or are we not going to?
It's just scheduling's hard. Brady Barkey does all the scheduling. I don't have much input at all on it. With the playoffs and how they go about it, I would just assume play all 1AA schools. I don't want to play Mizzou and I don't want to play West Virginia State, but there's just a fact of playing some of those. And then, we've gotten better, so it's a little harder to get these games. But we did just schedule Dayton that was a good get for us. They just beat Indiana State. They're a good program, FCS, and those are the non-conference games I'd love to play.
And you have, over the years, played some non-conference games against Missouri Valley Football Conference. I mean, you've had Indiana State on the schedule.
Yeah.
That's a really solid program.
Yeah, exactly. And those are the ones you want to try and get, Western Illinois. Of course, we always play SIU because ultimately, that's what you're working for in that resume. When they get in that conference to decide who gets in the playoffs, that matters.
We need to play Western Illinois. I'm from Macomb, so
Yeah.
I would like to see that game on the schedule. And we'll talk more about Western Illinois, who got beat by Tennessee Tech, your next opponent, coming up. The Aaron Alston 50-yard catch, Coach, you had really been talking about, hey, I think this guy can be a deep ball threat, much like Christian Wilkerson is in our program, and we saw it firsthand on that 50-yarder with about 5:17 to go in the first quarter. Talk a little bit about that particular play and the potential of Aaron Alston.
Well, it was, we knew going into the game that we'd get a lot of one-on-one coverage, and they were going to try to stop the run game. We just ran a post, and Jeremy McDowell, Coach McDowell, the offensive coordinator, actually called it on the headset. This is a touchdown. Then the ball was snapped, and the problem was Santa had to run out of there and then throw it. But it was a great play, great execution, and it was like one of those scoring drives. I don't know if it was the first drive or the second scoring drive. We went for it on fourth down. It wasn't a gimme, and it was kind of, the momentum really wasn't on our sideline, you know what I mean? And so that was a little hairy. I was a little nervous about it. Guys did a great job, ended up picking up the first down. And
that was Custis that picked it up,
so I don't
right?
know whether the next player, the play after that, we ended up scoring, but that was a huge point in the game also.
So you run the football, which is one of the things that you talked about the most going in. You said you need to see the running game. You have to run the football. Well, you almost ran for 400 yards, 396. What did you see, first of all, from your offensive line?
Well, I think we're improving, and I think we are coming along. Still not there. We still got to get better. I think we might be – I really believe this, even on offense. Like, I still think this team could get a lot better, as we settle in. And on the offensive line, there's still some things that they could have done. But pleased. Not very many MAs. Our running backs did a good job of running hard. They're finishing runs. They weren't getting pushed back. I think we had one time Mark Robinson got pushed back, but really everybody else did a nice job of just finishing runs, and guys were blocking, and and it opened up a lot of other things. It extended drives. It let us tempo. I mean, it just improved everything. You could just tell. It was a huge key, and we got to find ways to run the ball. Each and every week, even when they don't want us to, and they got everybody in there, we still need to go find a way to get 3.5.
And, you didn't just talk about the offensive line last week. You said our running backs have to be better. It wasn't just the line.
Yeah.
Did you think they were better?
Yeah, I think we're getting the backfield action right. And the quarterback was a little bit too, on some of them too. We're just making sure that they're coached well, and they understood the reads and all that. So we're way better than we have been, but still want to continue to progress there.
I don't think some people really knew how banged up Daniel Santa Catarina was going into that football game, Coach. He suffered a groin injury in the Montana State game, didn't miss a snap. He suffered all kinds of bumps and bruises, including taking a helmet to the chin, which was not flagged, and he got stitches. And I know you said you saw all kinds of bruises after the Missouri game. I mean, he was really banged up, wasn't he?
Yeah, he really was, and did a good job. And I think that was a really reminded me a lot more back when we were at the game at SIU. He did a great job managing the game. He never panicked. He never felt like, one time we didn't block a guy and he took a sack. Well, he didn't turn it over and he didn't do something stupid there. It just was a bad play. Didn't make worse. He didn't scramble and try to throw it across and do much. When he took off running, he gained yards and just did a really good job of managing the game. And threw the ball well. I think he had 2 bad passes. Of 1 3rd and 4, he threw a bad pass, but for the most part, I think he was pretty on it.
The ball security, good
Great.
again in this game.
Yeah, we've been good all year. He had out of Montana State wasn't great, but our ball security is great. Our guys that handle the ball know how to handle it well. They do a good job in traffic, and it's great to see. On the other end of that, we need to get going on the takeaways. We had 1, I believe, Saturday. Could have had 2, and we're just, we're not
seeing the fumbles pop out.
Right.
That's one thing we're not seeing.
Right. So, we got to get back to making sure we're doing all the attempts and things like that. And ultimately, you get most of the turnovers from quarterbacks. Whether you strip them in a pocket or you turn them over or a tip ball and all those type of things. And, we just got to continue to get better at it.
All right, let's talk about the 1 turnover, and unfortunately it ended up being some bad news. Al Young, your senior cornerback, went up and made a really good play, an interception. When he came down, it looks like it's an Achilles injury, which is it is going to cost him the rest of his season. Talk a little bit about that and the fact that, this is within the 4-game window that the NCAA mandates that you can still redshirt a player. Is that something that we see happening?
Yeah, so they're going to ultrasound it today to make sure, but they felt pretty confident. He's already scheduled for surgery on Thursday. Achilles is probably about 6 months, depending. It's a pretty tough injury. But it just heartbreaks for any senior that happens to. The good thing with Al versus Devin Alexander is that's not career ending. He can get another year, and if you play 4 or less games, no matter when you play the 4, you can redshirt, and this would have qualified for medical too. But he played as a true freshman, and so this will allow him to get another senior year, and so thankful for that. But it doesn't matter how many injuries you go through in your career. It crushes you when you see a kid that has one of those, and it's tough. But tough times don't last. Tough people do. That's what I told him. Can't make it easier for you. Just at the end of the day, it's a long ways from your heart, long ways from your head, and you're going to be okay. But it doesn't make it feel any better right now.
What has been your experience over the years with guys who suffer that injury?
It's tough. I had a guy play for me at Northern Illinois, actually snapped a Achilles on the gym floor during intramurals, so that was terrible. But he ended up coming back and getting drafted, so definitely.
Came back 100% then?
Yeah, come back 100% and was good to go and ended up playing for the Steelers. So it's just going to be a long rehab. It's just, you got to have the long view. It takes you a long time to get back, but he's in good hands. The Southeast Hospital and our new agreement with them, those doctors have done a great job. They really have. They've added a lot of value. Our care for our student athletes is our priority, and they've really enhanced it. I feel like we're getting as good as Mizzou. We have just as good of resources here in town. That's why I'm thankful we live in Cape. You got great access to great medical providers. If you're in Murray, Kentucky, what are you doing?
Right.
Martin,
good point.
Tennessee. What? So very thankful for that.
And as far as the injury status going forward, Al, obviously that's bad, but did you get out of the rest of the game relatively healthy?
Yeah, no other injuries. There's some bumps and some bruises, and some people need the rest. I think this is a good time for a bye week from our football team. I think even emotionally it's been like that, and the 2 long trips just took a lot out of us. And so, we're still in the top 25. We're 2-2. Know a lot about a football team. We get to open up OVC play at home, so it's been good. It's and now we're ready to go on this league charge here.
And before you even start conference play, do you like the fact that you get an extra week to not only heal up from two of the more physical teams you're going to play, Montana State and Mizzou, and get 2 weeks to actually open against your first conference opponent?
Yeah, and the other thing is just recruiting. Now there's a food chain to recruiting. Like, in June, all these guys think they're getting recruited by Notre Dame. Well, now, again, September, October, buddy, if they ain't called you, you ain't going there. So now you look a little more sexy to these recruits. And so all of our assistants are out all week long. I'm handling the team and all the practices with the GAs, and they're going out and recruiting. And this is a big week for us in recruiting. And so we've got a great plan there and look forward to seeing who those guys get. And then obviously just praying for safe travels for the staff. And it's hard because they've been grinding and away from their family. Now they're away from their family another week. But it's a different type of grind, than the day-to-day football grind.
How much are you keeping an eye on potential? Because we've seen a lot of teams in the Ohio Valley Conference get drop-down transfer quarterbacks. That's what you currently have. Daniel Santa Catarina is a senior. How much are you kind of keeping more of an eye on that? Because we've seen a lot of teams that have had success in the OVC, they're getting drop-down quarterbacks.
Yeah, well, I check the transfer portal more than the weather. So what does that tell you? Like, yes, we're all over it.
How do you like the transfer portal?
I think it's good. I'm kind of, if guys want to leave, let them leave. Like, I'm not as sensitive about it. It's hard because and I've had a couple bad ones that I took it personal, but really, sometimes there's just necessary endings. Like, it just needs to happen, and it's kind of just straightforward. There's no messiness. I'm out of it. They're kind of out of it. There's in between, and it's just a little cleaner. And, I just think it's good. I think it's going to hurt people like Jacksonville State, though, and others that are in highly recruited areas, because if a kid leaves Auburn, sometimes Jacksonville State's the only ones that know it because they're in that. They recruit those high schools or whatever. Now when it hits, we all know. And so there's a lot more competition for those type of kids. And so, and then having a good year, like finishing back-to-back seasons in the top 25 will really help us to get that marquee drop down. But I'm not taking – if we can't get good ones, I ain't taking them still, because there's a lot of trash that I ain't interested in bringing to Cape Girardeau or my football team or the locker room. There's a reason they transfer.
Sure.
And so you got to be careful. And I'd rather do it with other ways, but you certainly will look to try to bring a transfer quarterback in. But we have recruited well. I mean, we got two freshmen, redshirt freshmen, and then I really thought Joe Pyle did a nice job, and he's a little more on the athletic end. You saw him pull it and run. He's more of the athletic guy, where we do a little more, a running quarterback style type offense. So we'll see.
And as far as the drop-down transfers, I won't name the school. If people that follow the OVC probably know, a couple of years ago, one of the OVC football schools had about 18 FBS transfer guys, and they were horrible. They had no chemistry.
Yeah.
They had a terrible season. The alums were all upset. Sometimes you can make things really bad on your program if you have too many guys. Just like you were saying, there's a reason a lot of these guys are leaving the programs that they currently start with.
Yeah, exactly. And our recruiting model, is you always got to look at it. You always got to evaluate it. And we can't just say we're going to do it right here in this way, because there's not enough athletes there. We got to do it through the high school, through the out of states, through junior college, and some drop down guys, but I want people that care about SEMO, if they just care about what SEMO could do for them, I mean, we're never going to create anything special, right? Like they're just
Sure.
hired guns, and there'll be some in there that come only because of themselves. But if you surround them with enough people that love the school and love this team, they'll capture them and bring them into the family, and we'll get them rolling.
Do we know if Jake is here yet?
Yeah, he's here. He's got some. I don't know what his shoe choice was today. Obviously, it looks like laundry day. He's got white on white, some Converse.
He said Chuck Taylor. Someone said Chuck Connor. That was the rifleman, not Chuck Taylor, the basketball player. So as far as Jake Reynolds goes, Coach, one of the top punters in the Ohio Valley Conference. I think he finished third in punting average last year, and I think he went into the game on Saturday third in the OVC. I mean, he's one of the elite punters in the conference.
Yeah, he's done a great job, and I'll remember we went to a high school camp in just outside St. Louis, but on the Illinois side, and he was punting, and I was actually talking to somebody else, and I looked over there, and it was just this guy launching them, and then we ended up getting a hold of him and ended up recruiting him, bringing him in, and we did a good job. I don't know if you remember, but his kind of coming out party, we had the Dayton debacle where we had like 78 punts blocked, and then he came out and he was young then and really did a good job and hasn't looked back since, and he's got great parents, just a great kid.
How about tell us?
He's not very big.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not the bag on the guy, but obviously most punters got the long levers, and he's got a lot of pop for not being that 6'4" typical punter.
Also, when you talk about punters and kickers sometimes, coaches sometimes will allude to the fact that maybe they're kind of a different breed.
Yeah.
Does Jake fall into that category? Is he a normal cat?
No, he's normal, and we got all them weirdos out of there. Now, he's taken some professional butt chewings from me, and I try to make practice really hard because the problem with them is you're doing nothing, and then all of a sudden, game's on the line, you got to come out and perform. And so you got to turn the heat up on them just because that's kind of their life. And so I'm sure he's got some stories that probably doesn't need to be on the radio about me getting on him, but he's rose to the occasion every time.
What do you think your talent level is on a 1 to 10 scale of being a good butt chewer?
I'm the best on staff,
okay,
for sure. You might ask him, but I like the Jake from State Farm. I that commercial.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I can really I kind of set the tone with that very loud, and that gets him a little on edge, and then I'll come in with a couple other ones.
All right, we're going to see what Jake Reynolds thinks, if he's got any good Took stories. We'll find out. Jake Reynolds from Wildwood, Missouri, going to join us when we come back. Let's take a timeout. It's Wings, Etc., the Red Hawks Coaches Show on SEMO ESPN. Forget, we'll migrate over to Jackson next week. We'll be in the Jackson Wings Etc. location, and we want to remind you that they've got food and drink specials throughout the week here at Wings, including 69-cent wings on Monday, so you can take advantage of their award-winning jumbo wings. They are open 7 days a week and late on the weekends because sometimes the games run late. You want to watch the St. Louis Cardinals make their press for the National League Central Division Championship, or check out Monday Night Football. You've got Bears at Redskins tonight. You can watch it in high def right here at Wings in Cape or in the Jackson location. Let's welcome in Redhawks punter Jake Reynolds. How are you, Jake?
Doing all right. How are you?
All right. What about lunch? What are you going to choose today?
That's a good question. Haven't really thought about that yet. Probably. I'm not a big eater. That's like some of the other guys I'm sure you bring on the show, but yeah, I'll probably just do some wings and call it a day.
We had Mark Robinson on yesterday, and word on the street is he can put some away.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, for not being a lineman, Mark is he's a huge guy, but he can definitely put down some food. I live with Nate Cordy, and he just
tackle.
Yeah,
for
I
the
mean, I have
Redhawks.
to watch where I put my stuff out because if I leave it out for 10 minutes, I come back in there for lunch and it's gone. So yeah, but it's good. Those guys are good dudes.
So you grew up in Wildwood, Missouri.
Yes,
What was
sir.
that? What was that like?
Oh, it's nice. It's just a suburb of St. Louis. Nice area. Good people, and a lot of still good friends back there. So yeah, it's good.
That was
great
back.
area.
That was back in the day when we actually had NFL football in St. Louis.
Yeah, that was nice. You can actually go to a Rams game, but now it's kind of like, not.
We are.
Yeah, where do you go? Do you go to the Chiefs or?
Well, you got the XFL.
Yeah,
coming
that's true.
To
That's
St.
coming
Louis.
in, but I haven't looked too much into that. But yeah, no, it's a great area. Went to a great high school, great coaches in my high school. So
Lafayette
nice.
High School. So you were a Lancer.
yes, sir.
Tell us how much success did Lafayette have while you were there?
We did pretty well. I think they've kind of fallen off a little bit. My brother plays for him now, so I kind of stay up to date with them. Going to his game this Friday, so that'll be kind of fun. But yeah, we did pretty well. Had some really good players. A couple guys go play at big schools, so it was nice. And like I said, a lot of still my good friends still back there. So
All right. What are a couple of the schools where some of your friends went?
So
to play?
my senior year, we had a lineman, and he's on scholarship at West Virginia.
Okay.
And then tight end at Mizzou, Scales. His older brother, played here actually for us too. So that was kind of cool. Evan, I'm not sure if you remember.
They had
but
multiple,
multiple
Division I guys.
Yeah. So I was actually the small school guy coming out, which is kind of crazy, but yeah, it's still those guys are still good dudes. And I actually talked to Brendan the other day at the Mizzou game, so that was cool to see him.
It's a different animal you were explaining. It's a different animal for a punter to get recruited to go play college football than maybe it is for a wide receiver or a quarterback, right?
Yeah, so it's kind of different because, you watch a guy's film and it's like, all right, he looks good, but, is he using a composite football, stuff like that? You don't really know. So you go to these camps, and basically from that they rank you off of that, and then so it'll be like a national thing and then a state thing. So you basically, okay, I'm the second-ranked punter in Missouri, and then from that you kind of people will look at you and schools will look at you from that more so than, say your high school film. So it's more so how you perform at these camps gets you a scholarship to these schools more so than how you perform in a game, which is kind of crazy. But that's how it works because it's just such a different, like you said, such a different animal. How you attack it, it's who's good, who's not good. You just go to these camps and then you compete against these really good players and then rank you from that.
So is it a case where you seek out a camp? Do you get invites to the camps? How does that work?
So you go to these. There's these big camps. There's Coles and Chris Saylor. Those are the two main ones. And then from then, they rank you and all this, and then the schools will contact you from that and say, hey, we'd love to see you in person. Come out to our special teams camp. And a lot of times that's how you come in contact with them, and then they see you in person, and that's a lot of times when you'll get the scholarship or something like that. So,
okay, tell us about the camp that you attended, and it just so happened that a guy named Tom Matukowicz was there.
Yeah, so it was an Illinois camp, and I went with my high school buddies who were at the time still getting recruited. And then for that, it's different because it's not like a special teams camp. It's like an all-position camp. So that kind of took me to the side, and I worked out with the special teams coach, and Tukic happened to be there, and I think I remember him saying he was eating a hot dog or something and looked up and was seeing me punt and came over and introduced himself to me, and kind of from then we just kind of hit it off, and then I ended up meeting Coach Martin, and the cycle kind of started from that. So, yeah, it kind of worked out just in my favor that he was there and happened to see me. So it's pretty cool.
And you were also in contact with a couple of other schools, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. North Dakota State was one of the ones that really recruited me hard. Took an official there. Obviously, they're a really good team, and they had a really good coaching staff.
What's that dome like?
It's cool. It's not as big as you think it is, but it's one of those that's like right on top of you. Kind of reminded me of the Montana State, just because they're right there.
Right.
And so I think it was only like maybe 20,000 maybe, but it's one of those they say you can't even hear the guy right next to you during game day. So it was a cool experience, and getting recruited by some of those schools. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Arkansas State was in the mix too.
They gave me a preferred, and that's one of those things. It's like, hey, we really like you as a player. You're a great punter, whatever, but we don't know if you're going to be the guy or not. We don't want to, we don't have the, I don't know, will to give you the scholarship right now. We think you could probably come in and do the job, but we don't know. And whereas like Coach Tuke, he believed in me the whole way. He said, hey, I'm going to give you a scholarship right out of high school, which as a specialist, like, that's pretty rare. Unless you're one of the top tier guys, like you really don't get a scholarship right out of high school. And so when Coach Tuke, gave me that opportunity, it was definitely something that I, knew he had the faith in me and believed in me to come in and do the job. And worked out perfectly because Alex Knight was a senior when I was coming in, and obviously knew he was a really good player. Thought I could learn a lot from him, and so kind of went under his wing for the year, and then came in and did my job after that. So.
I was going to say, how much did you learn from Alex Knight? Because that guy was an All-American.
Yeah, no, he was a phenomenal player and a really good dude too. So I kind of came in. It was kind of a perfect situation. Come in for a year, see what college football is like. 'Cause it's a big jump, obviously. And then came in, taught me a bunch of stuff I didn't even know about, learning from these camps and just kind of how it works in college and all that. So learned a lot from him. I actually still talk to him sometimes, so it's still pretty cool to reach out to him and see how he's doing. And he's living life down in Florida, so he's doing his thing.
Where's he at down in Florida?
I think he's still in Boca.
Okay.
I think that's where. And I want to say he's doing real estate, I'm pretty sure. So last time I talked to him, at least.
Jake Reynolds is the Red Hawks punter. He's our guest on the Coaches Show. The reputation sometimes of punters and kickers as a different breed of cat.
Yeah.
What's that like? Because I'm sure it's not the first time you've
yeah,
heard.
No, it's pretty common stereotype with us specialists is those guys are those guys even football players? It's like they're kind of weirdos, whatever. But no, our group of specialists is a really good group of guys, and we like to go out there and have fun with it, and just kind of when our number's called, go out there and do our job. But we don't take it too seriously. At practice we do our job and go out there, and we try to, like, week by week we'll take something that we want to improve on, because it gets so repetitive. It's not like you're calling different plays. It's pretty much the same thing every game. It's either do this or do that, and so there's only so much you can, I want to say, practice, so it gets really repetitive. But no, we like to have a good time with it, and we're a bunch of laid back group of guys that just kind of go out there, and when our number's called, we go out there and do our job. So
how about when you were kicking at Montana State? Because the elevation, it's a little thinner air.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Kendrick Tiller, he kicked a 55-yard field goal.
Absolutely.
Does he make that in Cape Girardeau with the elevation? I don't know.
Yeah.
What was it like? What did you see
awesome.
when you were kicking at elevation?
So when you walk out there, you can kind of feel the air was like thin. It just felt different a little bit. And then you start kicking in warm-ups, and I remember we were all looking at each other like, this is awesome. Like, how are these guys, they're specialists, not All-Americans? Like, because it was awesome. Like, you just kick the ball and it would just fly. And it's like, geez, like, this is crazy. So it was like almost like an adrenaline boost or something. Like, it just felt like it was flying. And I remember, Kendrick was hitting them great in warm-ups. And I was like, if you get a chance to hit a long one today, like, you're hitting it. So, and sure enough, he did. And he executed his job. And it was awesome. So, yeah, the elevation was crazy, definitely.
It couldn't have been a cooler circumstance because it appeared that the half was over. Santa Catarina throws a Hail Mary. It gets intercepted. The half is over. And then all of a sudden, a flag is down on the field, roughing the passer, 15 yards, and they trot Kendrick out for a 55-yarder with no time on the clock.
Yeah, and I remember the guys on the sideline were asking me, like, are we going to kick this? And I'm like, I think we're going to do this. And they're like, no way. And I was like, yeah, it's a long one. But, Kendrick's done a great job this year, and I know he had all the confidence in the world going out there and went out there and banged it through. And I don't think anybody in the whole entire stadium thought he was going to hit it. And I don't think half of our team even knew he was going to hit it. And sure enough, goes out there and right down the middle. So that was definitely an awesome experience for him, I know for sure. So
second longest field goal in school history, 55 yards. Now, you've got a bunch of punts over 50 yards. We hear the term outkick your coverage. Explain what that means. It's not about having a super, good-looking girlfriend.
Yeah.
You can use the term you outkicked your coverage there, pal.
Right. Yeah.
But you can actually kick the ball too far, can't you?
Definitely. Yeah, no, you definitely can. And a lot of times you'll see that. Sometimes guys will do that in the NFL because they're so strong. They'll just blast the ball so far. And then you're playing a team like a Mizzou, or I know we play a bunch of teams this year that have really, really skilled guys back there, returner. And so you can't just blast it down as far as you can, even though that's sometimes what you want to do. You can't do that because you give those guys 5 or 10 yards of room, and then they're in the other end zone. So it's like you have to adjust to that sometimes, and that definitely plays a role because you can't just – people think you just go out there and like, oh, he's just hitting it as hard as he can, but that's really not the case. You got to aim the ball, and then obviously you want to work on something like hang time. That's a big deal in college because those guys are some talented dudes back there. So you got to be careful not to give them too much space for sure.
How many times have you gone out, maybe the plan is from the coaches, we're not punting to this guy. We're angling the punt. He's a really dangerous guy. And you end up kicking it right to him.
It's happened a couple times for sure, and I'm sure if it does happen, you'll hear Coach Martin over on the sideline freak out. But, no, it's happened a couple times, and a lot of times if it's a windy day, it's kind of a lot harder to judge where the ball is going to go and stuff like that. But
it was pretty windy on Saturday, and it was a cross breeze. Did that affect things in your opinion?
Yeah, it does a little bit. Just kind of where you're launching the ball to, especially if it's a directional punt, which is how we do it. You kind of got to judge that a little bit before, just because it's, like you said, it's a windy day. You got to adjust for that a little bit, but it does make a difference. Yeah.
So do you like rugby style punting? Do you like traditional punting? What's your preference?
I actually really enjoy our rugby because it's kind of different. It's more of I kind of roll out and then I punt just a regular ball, whereas some teams will roll out and hit it on the ground and stuff. That's not really my style. So I enjoy it because it's a rollout, gives guys time to get down the field, but at the same time it's still a fairly traditional punt, so like high long ball style. So it's kind of works to my favor, and I think we've done that pretty good job. I know last year we used it a little bit, and I think this year we'll use it a little bit even more. So,
all right, since you've got such a strong leg, how much kicking did you do coming up? Kickoffs, field goals?
Yeah, in high school I did all three, and that's pretty common for most guys, I think. And then once you get to college, it's more of a selective deal because you want to work on one thing and just be really good at one thing. And we have, obviously we have 3 different guys doing 3 different things. We have a kickoff specialist and Adam Krause, and then Kendrick kicks field goals, and then I just punt. So it's kind of cool to have 3 different guys do that and all contribute on special teams. So it's pretty cool.
So when the other guys are practicing field goals, you ever tee it up a little bit?
Oh man, I do it a couple times, but Coach Martin will get on me if I'm not working on stuff at practice. So I stay in a pretty straight line and just kind of do my thing there, but yeah, not too much of messing around with Coach Martin out there.
Coach Tuke wants to see improvement on the special teams. But one of the things he has come out and said, I'm not talking about our specialists. I think he's been pretty satisfied with his specialists. Although the word on the street is his butt chewing techniques are very elite.
Yeah, pretty good.
Do you have a good Tuke story for us?
I would say, my first year here. I'm not going to go into a lot of details about what he said, but it was just kind of an eye-opening experience going out there. And I remember my first week of practice, I didn't punt that great, and he kind of got on me a little bit. And I remember Alex and I was like, don't worry about it. But it's just, since then I think it's gotten better, and I know he's got a ton of confidence in me, and I know, when he says stuff to me, he's just trying to get me going and just, get me locked in. So I've kind of grown to love it a little bit, and then obviously Coach Martin's kind of the same way. He keeps a fire under us, and like I said, we're a bunch of laid-back guys, but he keeps us going at practice and stuff like that. Because I said, it's really repetitive. You're doing the same stuff, so you got to find little things. But yeah, Coach Duke and Coach Martin keep us going and keep us perfecting our craft. So.
All right, clearly you've got the flow working. So who's got the best hair on the team?
Well, when they asked me earlier for that question, I said myself, and I kind of wish I could take it back because no one came to mind when they asked me that the first time. I was like,
now you've had a chance to
now I've
think
thought about it a
All
little bit. So I would say Colby Cornett. He's got the hair coming out the back, and You know, he kind of looks like a cowboy a little bit, but yeah, he's got a pretty good head of hair. I tried to grow it out last year and it was a disaster, so I'm just kind of figuring it out still. So.
All right. It's going to be conference play, getting ready to start. What's the mood of the team as you guys get ready to challenge for an OVC championship?
I think we're ready. I think these first, couple games were a good kind of reminder of where we're at as a whole, as a team, offense, defense, special teams. And, obviously we still have a ton of stuff to get better and a ton of stuff to work on. But I think the guys are pretty confident coming in. And, I mean, you look at last year, all the stuff we did, and it's like, we have a lot of those same guys. So I think it's a confident group of guys. And, it's the art of the schedule now, and it's what's really important. So I think we're going to come out here, have a good week this week, and get ready for the OVC and just give it our best shot.
All right. We appreciate you joining.
Yep.
Don't outkick your coverage,
I won't.
okay?
I will
All right.
not.
All right. Jake Reynolds, Red Hawks punter. Appreciate his time. We got one more segment with Coach Tuke. Hey, Trivia Night is coming up, and the football team is going to be heavily involved in that. We'll talk that over with Coach Tuke when we come back. Final segment coming up from Wings. It's the Red Hawks Coaches Show on SEMO ESPN. With Coach Tuke. Thanks to Jake Reynolds, Red Hawks punter, for joining us. Don't forget, no game this week. The Red Hawks are idle, and it has become a tradition now for the last few years that on the bye week, there is the Southeast Trivia Night, Coach. And I know you are really heavily involved in the Trivia Night, you and your coaches and players.
Yeah. Just to follow up on Jake, man, what a good job he did. I didn't realize he'd be that good on the radio. I think he's got a face for radio.
I know I do.
But he, he's such a great kid, and so thrilled that he's got another year, which is pretty awesome. And trivia this weekend will be great. It's one of our main fundraisers. And I'm terrible at trivia, but it's just a good night to come enjoy each other. There's going to be a lot of players, a lot of coaches that'll be there, and it'll be a fun night.
And the players and coaches are actually they'll be waiting on the tables and doing all the heavy lifting.
I'm not. So everybody expect me there. I'm going to be there. I'm doing a table. So I'm going to enjoy my wife. We got people coming. We're going to be just like everybody else, just taking in and having a good Saturday night.
Now, is it, I want to make sure, is it teams of 8 or 6?
No idea.
Okay,
8?
yeah. I
Is
think
it
it's 8. Okay, but I am told.
I'd need 88 to answer our questions, probably.
I'm told tickets are still available, by the way. If you want to go, if you want to be a part of Trivia Night, it is GoSoutheast.com/trivia. GoSoutheast.com/trivia, and it is Saturday night at the Show Me Center. This thing has gotten bigger and bigger every year. I mean, there are more and more tables every year that we have this thing.
Yeah, it's a great event. Brady Barkey came up with this, and I remember when he first said it, I thought it was craziest idea I've ever heard of in my life. But, you know, it turns out it was a great event and one of our signature events, so looking forward to it.
All right, we've got this question from the audience, Coach. Is dance class on the curriculum for football players? Is Coach Took the choreographer?
Well, I think that's probably coming from our fourth quarter song that we play. It's a party. And
The fourth quarter dance, right?
Yeah, okay, so that's – and I don't really understand where it came from. We're out at practice. This song comes on, and that baby just starts going crazy. I'm like, what are they listening to? Then you think about it, it's like, you know what? Let's do it. So last year, about the fourth game, we started it. It worked, and so we're running with it. But this
and President Vargas is migrating down to the field for the fourth quarter.
Yeah, we got him in there for our recruiting videos because, you know, what recruit doesn't like to see the president dancing with the football players, right?
Right.
Oddly, this could be a trivia question. I used to teach dance lessons. I was at Fort Hays State and poor, obviously, and I taught dance lessons through the university. And as a single guy, it's pretty handy to know how to get on the dance floor and shake it. You know what I'm saying? But it's been a while. My wife won't let me. We swing dance. We'd flip her up and do all that stuff. And I had one bad time.
And
I
that's
dropped
it.
her, and she hasn't got out there with me since. So the dancing career is over.
By the way, it did appear you kept your perfect record in the Rock and Lock sprint, but it looked like you had to go past the 50 in order to win. You took it an extra 5 yards, it appeared.
I thought I had him right at the 50. I got on top of the flag guys, so
that's just it. They've got a head start on you.
Yeah. So, but I reeled them up pretty quick.
All right. We'll talk much more about Tennessee Tech coming up next week. But one thing about Tech, boy, they are really improved. They went on the road and beat Western Illinois this past week by a larger margin than Montana State beat Western Illinois. They've got an overtime win over Samford. They are 3-1 for the first time since, I believe, 2011.
Yeah, they're having a great year. They had I don't know if you remember the quarterback, but he was the newcomer of the year in the whole conference last year.
Bailey Fisher, right.
Very talented, and what's hard about him is he could do both. He can run and throw it, and so, you know, it's going to be a great home. I'm glad we got him at home. We play well at home. It'll be a great opportunity for FAC. I mean, and I think they have Eastern Illinois maybe up next, and then us. So it's going to be a huge home game.
Then we'll talk much more.
It's a night game.
Yeah, final night game. Of the year.
Get your motor running, as the Moose Knuckles would say.
A week from Saturday at 6 o'clock, and we'll talk much more about the game coming up on Monday's show, next Monday when we're over in Jackson. Coach, thanks so much for the time. We'll see you at Trivia Night on next Saturday.
Go Red Hawks.
All right, that's Coach Took. Thanks to Jake Reynolds. Thanks to Mike Rennick, Dean Field, on-site engineers here at Wings, etc. We've got the Stephen A. Smith Show coming up next on ESPN Radio. Enjoy your rest of your Monday, everybody. So long from Wings.